Hello everyone, we are here for our next read aloud for our biography unit, and today we are reading A Picture Book of Rosa Parks by David A. Adler, illustrated by Robert Casilla. So another really good David A. Adler book. This is about a biography of the Alabama black woman whose refusal to give up her seat on a bus helped establish the civil rights movement. A really good book. I mean, a lot of people know about Rosa Parks. This does give a really good biography about her life, especially things that just led up to that time when she was helping being an activist and helping being a protester. But yeah, this is a really good book all about her. While we are doing this today, these are going to be our goals. Remember, for our biography unit, we always have two goals, a reading goal and a social studies goal. Let's read our reading goal together. I can determine or figure out the main idea of a text and key details for support. Just remembering that main idea is like a one-sentence big idea. And then the key details, those are like those most important facts that give the support for the main idea. And as we're doing this, like the facts that we're going to be looking for, those key details, because we're not going to be doing a summary today. You're going to see what we're going to be doing, but we are going to be looking for some like the really big key details about her, which sometimes turn out to be like the main idea. We're going to be about different parts about her life. And we're going to use that today to help us do the social studies goal. You can read it with me and I can explain. Ready? I can explain how specific or certain people have done important actions or things to help change the world around them in history, past events. Now, as we're doing that today, make sure I'm not going to lose the book. We are going to be doing this. We're going to be using this graphic organizer. So when you open it up, send it off to Notability. Create new note to the blue. Top right corner, hit import. Gonna get Mr. Johnson written in. Always good to get your name so I know who's is who. Okay, now when you're looking through this, cause and effect, we've done this several times so this will be kind of a nice visit back to this skill. But cause, remember, that is an event that happened. Something that happened, and the effect is what happened after it. And we kind of like using there's like a certain word that really helps. So in this cause, something happens, and then we always would try to use that word right after it. So some situation happens, so what happens right after? So you can be thinking about cause and effects. Something happens, what happens after because of it, as we're reading today. So, a picture book of Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was born in Tuskegee, Alabama on February 4th, 1913. Her mother, Leona Edwards McCauley, was a school teacher. Rosa's father, James McCauley, was a carpenter and house builder. Rosa was the great-granddaughter of slaves. Soon after Rosa was born, her family moved to Pine Level, Alabama. They lived on Rosa's grandparents' small farm where there were cows, chickens, fruit, and nut trees. In 1915, when Rosa was 2 years old, her brother Sylvester was born. Soon after that, their father left. He moved around to find work. While Rosa was growing up, she hardly saw him. As Rosa grew older, she worked on her grandparents' farm in the nearby cotton fields. In the spring, she cleared weeds away. In the fall, she picked cotton. It's already kind of a challenge for her. We're not doing any challenges, but that's something we're going to remember, that didn't see her father much. Just he had to work. When Rosa was young, discrimination against African Americans was common. There were Jim Crow laws that kept black people and white people segregated. So the Jim Crow laws was just the nickname for a set of laws to keep people separate based on their skin color. They were kept apart on streetcars, on trains, at parks, in drinking fountains, in churches, hotels, theaters, and restaurants. Even the United States Army was segregated. So you can even see there too, different drinking fountains for different people. Very, very unfair. While Rosa lived in Pine Level, the Ku Klux Klan, a band of hate-filled whites, was active there. They wore white robes and covered their faces with pointed hoods. In southern cities and elsewhere in the United States, members of the Klan marched and helped elect political candidates who shared their hatred of African Americans, Roman Catholics, Jews, and foreigners. They burned crosses and beat, tortured, and killed many African Americans. Rosa's grandfather, Sylvester Edwards, carried a gun to protect his family from the Klan. So we've seen this in a couple other books before, but just a group of people who, not even just not African Americans, people who had different religions than them. Just very, very, very unkind. Just, not good. Rosa's mother taught Rosa to read. Then, when Rosa was 6 years old, she started first grade in an old one-room school for African-American children. The school was open just 5 months a year. The new brick school building for white children was open 9 months a year. So she didn't even get to go to school the same as somebody who was white. School for black children in Pine Level stopped after 6th grade. So in 1924, Rosa continued her studies in Montgomery, Alabama. She had to leave school in 1929, though, because of a family illness. She took care of her sick grandmother and then cared for her mother, who was sick too. Rosa finished high school in 1933. So a lot of obstacles and challenges that she's having to overcome. In 1931, Rosa met Raymond Parks, a barber and a man active in the struggle for the rights of African Americans. Rosa was proud that he spoke up for what was right. Rosa and Raymond were married in December 1932 in her mother's home in Pine Level. In the early 1940s, Rosa joined the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, an organization that worked to end the unfair treatment of African Americans and others. Raymond Parks had been a member for many years. Soon after Rosa joined, she was elected secretary of the Montgomery branch of the association. So pretty big deal. She joined her husband doing this. And she was a very smart, intelligent person with great ideas, and that's actually why she was elected to be in charge of this branch so fast. Buses in Montgomery were a daily reminder that the city was segregated. African Americans were allowed only to sit in the back. On some buses, they entered through the front door, paid the fare, and were told to leave the bus and go in again through the back door. Sometimes before they could get on again, the driver drove away. One day in 1843, Rosa got on the front of a crowded bus and paid the fare. The driver, James Blake, told her to get off and use the back door. Rosa told him she was already on the bus. She didn't see the need to get off, and besides that, she didn't think she could enter through the back door. It was blocked by the many people standing there. But Rosa got off. She didn't get on again. She waited for the next bus. 12 years later, on Thursday, December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks met James Blake again. Rosa was coming home from work as a tailor's assistant at a Montgomery department store. She got on the Cleveland Avenue bus and took a seat in the middle section. African Americans were allowed to sit in the back and in the middle section too, as long as no white passenger was left standing. At the next stop, some white passengers got on, and because the bus was crowded, moved to the middle section where Rosa was sitting. The driver told the 4 African American passengers in Rosa's row to get up. 3 of them did, but Rosa did not. She had paid the same fare as the white passengers. She knew it was the law in Montgomery to give up her seat, but she knew the law was unfair. James Blake called the police, and Rosa Parks was arrested. On Monday, December 5th, Rosa went to the local court and was found guilty of breaking the segregation laws. She was fined $10 plus court costs. Rosa and her lawyers appealed to the higher court. Beginning on December 5th, to protest the arrest of Rosa Parks, African Americans in Montgomery refused to ride on public buses. They found other ways to get to work. Many walked, some as far as 12 miles. The bus boycott was led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the new minister at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. On Monday evening, December 5th, he spoke to a large crowd. He explained the reason for the boycott. There comes a time, he said, that people get tired. We are here this evening to say those who have mistreated us so long that we are tired of being segregated and humiliated, tired of being kicked about by the brutal feet of oppression. The boycott lasted more than a year. During that time, almost no African Americans rode a public bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks, Dr. King, and many others were arrested. Homes of boycott leaders were bombed. On November 13th, 1956, the United States Supreme Court, they said that the segregation on public buses was against the law. On December 21st, after the court order reached Montgomery, the boycott ended. News reporters came to talk to Rosa and to photograph her sitting on a bus again. For some people, the civil rights movement in the United States, the fight for the rights of all people to be treated as equals, began with the arrest of Rosa Parks. For many others, it began 1 year earlier. In May 1954, the Supreme Court had ruled the separate schools for blacks and whites were unequal and against the law. But while schools and buses in the United States could no longer be segregated, there was still much discrimination against African Americans. Rosa Parks went to many demonstrations and civil rights marches. Rosa Parks received threatening phone calls. Her family worried about her safety. In 1957, Rosa and Raymond Parks left Montgomery with Rosa's mother and moved to Detroit, Michigan, where Rosa's brother Sylvester lived. In 1965, Rosa began working in the Detroit office of John Conyers, a member of the United States House of Representatives. She did a lot of good work in that office, including helping poor people find homes. She retired in 1988. The late 1970s were difficult years for Rosa Parks. In 1877, after a long illness, her husband died. Her brother died a short while later, and in 1979, Rosa's mother died too. So definitely more challenges and obstacles for her there. In 1887, Rosa founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development to give young people hope and to help them complete their education. Rosa Parks has been called the mother of the civil rights movement. The movement brought many needed changes in the United States. It is now against the law for Americans to discriminate against people because of their race, color, religion, or nationality, at work or in restaurants, hotels, and other public places. The right of every citizen to vote is protected. Rosa Parks has received many honors, among them the Springer Medal, the Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent Peace Award, the Eleanor Roosevelt Woman of Courage Award, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Cleveland Avenue in Montgomery was renamed Rosa Parks Boulevard. But perhaps the greatest reward for Rosa Parks was seeing people of all races on buses and in public schools and other places being treated fairly and with respect all people deserve. So, just a reminder, and we're going to be coming back looking at cause and effect. So just think about things that happened to her and then what happened after. And I'll see you back.